So like PT3F, but I have to do this quickly because I'm already supposed to be watching a DVD, and it's 21, so it's really late. So let's go with it. Let's go. Penny woke up to movement in her kitchen the next morning, and wondered if it might be Henry. Maybe even after hoping, she pulled on her robe and walked downstairs. She was only slightly disappointed to see Jill banging around and making breakfast. Jill smiled handily when she saw her and gave her a big hug. She rolled back slightly and her face fell. "You've been crying. What happened?" Penny shook her head. "It doesn't matter. It obviously does." There was a light from upstairs and acting as someone got out of bed, and suddenly Penny didn't want to be there. Either Henry was going to come downstairs and shout at her some more, apologize recently, or ignore her completely, and she didn't want to be there for any of that. She still had that repose of cabin she needed to do, but that could wait until later. "What did you have planned for today?" Jill picked up on her urgency straight away. "I was going to take you out for the day." Penny smiled with love for her. "I'd really like that." "Well, go out and get dressed then, while I put these breakfast things away." Penny and nodded gratitude and ran upstairs. The amazing sense of the Christmas market in the next town of Apple Hill could be smelt from the very back of the car park. It was still the more magical of the snow that was falling quite heavily around them, setting on the car roots and in the grass. They walked through the milking entrance and were met with a wall of warmth and the rich smells of sweet honey, spice, witness, fruits, and chocolate fudge, bread, and so many other things that Penny couldn't distinguish them. The place was packed. Christmas Eve was tomorrow. Everyone was running around trying to take care of the last-minute shopping and preparations. Over a breakfast of bacon sandwich made with a special whiskey bread which tasted amazing, Penny told Jill what happened the day before. Jill finished off the remainder of her sandwich and licked her fingers. "My lovely Penny, although that was a massive overreaction from him, being a parent does funny things to you. I guarantee you that he is regretting what happened yesterday afternoon right now, and he is working out a way to apologize to you. He can stick his apology up his hour." I'm not interested. Jill shook her head. "I don't know a single parent who has never overreacted when it came to the safety and protection of the children. The first child is the worst. By the time you've had 2 or 3, you become more mellow. But Henry never had that. He only had 1, and she is his entire world. You can see that. I never had children, but I love you and your brother as if you were my own, and I would quite decently die for you if it meant you were happy, healthy, and safe. One day you might have children of your own, and you shouldn't judge a parent until you've walked a mile in their shoes, till you've felt that unwavering, all-consuming love for a child that makes you act rationally and instantly all the time. It was a shock for him to find his daughter like that, and it must have hurt him that you didn't tell him." James raised her hand to stop Penny interrupting. "Do I understand why you did it? A relationship has all arguments and roles, but you forgive each other and you move on. You don't throw the man away you love at the first huddle. When he apologizes, tell him he is an musician. Tell him how much he hurt you, but then forgive him and never look back." Penny shook her head. She couldn't forgive Henry. Not yet, anyway. She was still too angry for that. Jill patted her on the hand and stood up. "Come on, I want to see the delights this market has to offer." There was no more mention of it after that. Jill knew when to show the seed of what Penny should do, and when to leave her alone to think about it. Instead, they moved from the stall, admiring the second candles, testing all the fudge, chocolate, and honeycomb, sweet bread, cinnamon nuts, jam and cheese. Penny drank lots of hot spice apple cinnamon and mulled wine, enough to make her feel warm and content. There was several stalls selling mice pies, all of them with different flavours and spices and unique decorations. And Penny bought and ate several tiny chocolate mice pies. They admired the tree decorations made from glass wood and even the tacky pastries one. And they reminded Penny of the wonderful tree sitting in her lounge. That was even a stall that glinted gingerbread houses sticks and some beautiful ready-made ones. It was almost as if Jill had deliberately brought her to remind her of all the amazing memories she had shared with Henry in the last week. By the time they left, Penny had eaten her weight in 3 samples. She had gone back for several more glasses of the delicious spiced hot apple cinnamon and was overweighted down with bags of pillowcases she had no recollection of buying. By the time Jill dropped her off at home, she was feeling a little bit drunk and certainly not in the mood to face Henry in whatever mood he was in. So she dumped her bags in the lounge and went off to bed for an afternoon nap. She woke up later and it was clearly dark outside. The snow still falling heavily outside the window. Her head was still feeling a bit fuzzy, and she quite fantasized to staying in bed until Christmas was over. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve, the night of the ball. She could easily stay in bed for 2 more days. No one would care anyway. Suddenly she remembered the proposal Kevin that she had needed to do before tomorrow night. As she had agreed to help Maggie with the lot of setting up for the ball the next day, she couldn't lie in bed feeling sorry for herself any longer. She got changed in slightly warmer clothes and went down to the freezer. She opened the freezer door, the bloody thing sticking again, and looked inside. Once the proposal Kevin had been delivered, she would have to refroze the whole freezer and clean the door and the floor before she put any more cravings in there. The pool of frozen water in the freezer was dangerous. She looked at 3 blocks of ice she had clumped together the night before and sighed. In her haste to recognize the situation, and with her mind still on Henry and Daisy, she didn't put the block on top of her trolley, as if it was too heavy to lift on her own, and there was no way she was asking Henry to help her move it. She reconciled herself to craving it in the freezer. The diamond ripe craving, at least, would be fairly easy and quick to crave. So she wouldn't be in there too long, and once the ice had been carried away, it was still in the middle. She was confident she would be able to move it on her own the next day. She grabbed the tools from the cool room and shut herself in, not totally confident that the 3 blocks of ice fudged into one piece would hold together once she started working on it. At least in the cold of the freezer, they would be at least likely to break. She strolled through the tons of her on her iPhone until she found something that was not remotely Christmassy, and then started to crave. She marked out the basic ring shape, then used the chainsaw to chop off the bites that she wouldn't need, including the middle. She made the ring a lot thicker than she had originally intended because she needed the strength of a thick ring. She spent a while getting the ring part as flawless and smooth as she could, but really it was cold in here and her fingers were becoming numb, even through the gloves. She pushed on, knowing she needed to finish it tonight, and at least while she was in here, focusing on the design and the craving, she wouldn't have to go out there and think about Henry and how this actually might turn out to be the worst Christmas ever. She was undoubtedly going to spend it alone, and although in the previous years when she had been alone, that had been fine, being in love with a man who hated her, and being dumped by him just a few days before the big day made things very wrong. She was feeling sleepy now, the alcohol no doubt still leaving its mark. She never really drank So when she did, she always felt hungover a few hours later, rather than the next day. She would finish it and go to bed. She ignored the cold that was settling into her body and took her time with the detail of the jar that would hold the giant diamond, making sure the facets of the diamond were smooth and polished. Finally, she stepped back to admire the finished piece. It was really cold in here, and maybe the time that she had spent in there, but it felt colder than it should. Her arms and legs were almost painfully cold. Her fingers were practically numb. Her eyes felt heavy. She had never had such an adverse reaction to work inside the freezer before. She checked the temperature gauge by the door and swore after the power cut on Saturday the freezer had reset itself at its coldest temperature, which was about 20 degrees colder than it should be. No wonder she was in so much pain. It almost explained why she felt so tired. It wasn't alcohol. Her body was shutting down. She needed a warm bath. She knew that going from extreme cold to extreme heat would not be good for her body, so she'd have to warm herself up gently. She picked up all her tools and pushed the door, but it didn't budge. Confused, she tried the door again, and it still didn't move. She put her tools down and tried again. It didn't shift an inch. She threw her weight against the door in panic, but didn't move. The handle wasn't turning properly from the inside, partly frozen from the intense cold, and her hands were too numb to apply any real pressure on it. Leaning onto one edge of the child, she tried to kick the door handle with her feet, but that didn't work either. She banged on the door and shouted as loud as she could. There was no noise from the room outside, and no one came to rescue her. She banged again, shouting, yelling for her weight against it, and time again. She was trapped. She quickly dug her phone out of her pocket and scrolled through her contacts. Who could she call? Henry or Daisy were the obvious choices. They were next door. They could come on the trial, but Henry wasn't speaking to her, and she didn't have Daisy's number. Maggie was 20 minutes away. Jill would be about half an hour, and her brother was a good 15 minutes from the house. The phone beat freely to say she was running out of battery, could anything else go wrong? She quickly dialed Henry's number. He would be angry, but he wouldn't leave her here to freeze to death. It rang a few times, and to her surprise, he answered straight away. Hello? She tried to judge his tone. Was he still angry, upset, regretful? No, that was not the time to get any of that. Henry? Are you in your house? I need your help. No. One word answers weren't good. He clearly hadn't forgiven her. She was so mad at him, she didn't even want to speak to him right now. And if he was out, then he couldn't even help her. The phone beeped, indicating that it was about to die any second. How far away are you? His voice softened slightly with the concern as he sensed the panic. What's wrong? It's Daisy at home. No, she's at Frank's. What's wrong? I'm trapped in the freezer. How are you trapped? The door is stuck. After the power cut, the freezer reset itself, and it's colder in here than it should be. I had to crave in here, and I've been in here for nearly 2 hours, and I can't get help. Henry was silent for a moment, and then the phone rang off. She stared at the phone in horror. Was he coming? Was he not? She tried to phone him again, but before it even rang, her mobile died. She had to get help with it. She threw herself against the floor a few more times, but it didn't move. Okay, so she had to remember how to survive at extreme. She had looked in it once when she had been trying to find out how long it was safe for her to work in the freezer. She didn't think moving around was a good idea because that kept blood pumping around the extremities, but away from the vital organs, so she had to stay still. She sat down in the corner of the room and curled herself up into a tight ball. knees up to her chest, her arms wrapped around them. Henry had to be coming. No matter how angry he was, he wouldn't leave her to freeze to death. He would come and save her. It would just depend whether he could get to her in time. We're doing chapter 3 tomorrow. Bye guys.